Welcome to our show today. I'm very excited to share with you today one of my more new friends since we moved to Victoria. His name is Jerome Peacock. He's a man of many different trades, jack of all trades, and I can't wait to bring him on. And we're just going to riff and see where it takes us. And hopefully this will be a great interview that all of us are going to enjoy. So 1 second and we're going to bring him in. Welcome to our show, Jerome.
Thanks, Amy.
So Jerome lives in Victoria. So this is one of my guests where we're both in Victoria. And Jerome's become one of my friends here, one of my first friends in Victoria. And I wanted you to you're originally from Southern California. You've moved a couple times. You've lived overseas. So you have kind of a worldly view on things. You've been in Victoria for a while now, but can you just tell us a little bit about growing up in California? Because I know that surfing and the ocean are a big part of who you are. So if you want to tell us a little bit about that.
Hmm. Well, yeah. I mean, like most surfers, I guess you could say, the ocean becomes a big part of your life, especially when you're growing up as a teen, and it was really central to my sense of myself, my growing, my spirituality, certainly physically, being healthy, my approach to my body and my general health, sort of integration between. The thing about surfing is that it's such a personal experience. Going day after day. I mean, I would walk to the beach. So I saw the sunset almost every night. I watched the sunset from the ocean most nights. And so it's almost like this church in a way. But it's very personal. It's a one-on-one kind of direct experience with nature. So over years, it completely affects your worldview. At least it did for me. My relationship with nature, my sense of myself within nature. So I think that, that's been really core to my life. I always said that the ocean was like a third parent to me. It's as important as either of my parents, actually. So
Wow.
it's been great. Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
awesome. I've never heard it explained that way, but it feels like we're so disconnected with nature, especially if we are living in cities. It's so easy to kind of forget, how connected we all are. So it's interesting that that's a real big part of who you are. And I feel like it should be a big part of who all of us are, whether it's right feeling connected to the ocean or the forests or the meadows or wherever we grew up, the mountains, or if
Mm-hmm.
we're in the city. How do you get that connection? So like when you've lived in bigger cities, because you have, um, how did you stay connected, or did you find it difficult, or like do you remember what kind of things you did to kind of keep that feeling?
Yeah, so it's very difficult. I dream about the ocean, surfing, body surfing. I dream about standing on the beach and not being able to go in the water and looking at the ocean because there's no surfboard available, or for some reason I can't go in. And so a lot of frustration comes out, and it's really challenging to, um, if when I identified myself so strongly with this activity. It was hard then to live in a big city where I didn't have that, because I really felt like a fish out of water, and I had to find some new definitions of myself. Um, when I lived in Prague in the Czech Republic for 8 years, nobody surfed in Prague. It was hard to find myself in other people, that part of myself in other people. Um, so
Meaning that you couldn't find that people were able to understand that connection to nature, or what do you mean by that?
Yeah, I guess that's true. Certainly, a lot of people are connected to nature, but it uh, it's almost an esoteric relationship in a way. It's hard to talk to someone and explain how meaningful and how important it is. And a lot of people think of surfing as being um, just sort of a hedonistic activity. It's like going to the beach. It's the most relaxing thing you can do, and it shouldn't be something you do a lot, because it's a waste of time, or it's a leisure thing. It's just something that you do for pleasure. But in fact, it's a whole lifestyle. It's a whole way of being in the world. I don't actually like hanging out on the beach very much. So for me, it's all about being in a relationship with the ocean.
Yeah. No, I
So
get it. It's kind of like if you're just sitting on the beach, you're like a spectator, right? Like you're not, it's almost like listening to music or playing music, like I don't know, I kind of see it that way.
sure, sure.
But
Well,
like
yeah. I mean, sunning yourself on the beach is pretty boring. I mean, I have an intellectual side as well, and when I was younger, I competed, and I thought I always wanted to be a professional surfer, and I saw all the surf movies, and my father was the manager of a movie theater that was kind of the premier movie theater for surf films. It
oh,
was a
okay.
really funky place, uh, from the 30s, theater in Encinitas, California, and all the surf movies would premiere there, and I got in for free. So yeah, it was. It's where am I going with that? No, I lost my train of thought because now I'm in that movie theater. But yeah, so but most people really think that it's kind of just a casual thing, and it's kind of hard to explain.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know any surfers, and I never really put that much thought into it being solitary. Like you mentioned, it's a very solitary thing. In my mind, I always felt like there's that image around the surfer where they hang out with other surfers and they go out and surf together, which I guess does happen. But like your experience, hey, would you hang out with other people that surfed and then you guys kind of talk about it afterwards? Like, oh my God, I can't believe like today was awesome. And
Well, when you're a teenager, you do hang out on the beach a lot. I mean, as an adult, I don't so much, but
yeah.
yeah. So now, I meet up. I like to go surfing with another person. But when you're in the water, surfers don't talk to each other. They kind of stare and meditate at the horizon, looking for any indication of waves coming in, especially if it's big and there's consequences to getting caught inside. But surfers don't really talk that much. And when you're in a group with people yapping away, it's you might be at a certain break and lots of people are talking, and it's actually not something that other surfers want to hear. They just want the quiet, and sort of it's
Interesting.
interesting. Yeah, it's not a party really. It's a very focused kind of solitary thing. And when you catch a wave, it's a solitary thing. And when you go into the water, it's a solitary thing. And when the waves are big and it's a little scary, it's a solitary thing. So surfers have a lot of respect for nature and the ocean. Um, and yeah, I don't think you'll ever hear a surfer talk about the surfing in the ocean in terms of as a social thing necessarily. I don't think that would be way down on the list in terms of their experience. I mean, obviously it's nice to have friends and stuff. And it's nice to surf with a friend. Yeah.
Yeah. So like all those moments that you had, all different types of moments, and you said it was almost like a parent. It's kind of like that you learned so much, like you were taken care of and nurtured and given a lot, but there was maybe some kind of learning experience happening all the time too. Like, would you be able to somehow, like in a philosophical way, like share like what kind of lessons did you
Hmm.
learn or have you learned from the ocean that shaped who you are today? You know what I mean?
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah. So yeah, to go back to your first part of your question. So it was important to me because, like a lot of young people, parents divorce, and so having this kind of activity that gives me self confidence, a sense of myself, was really important. It was really grounding in a way. But philosophically, um, in my life now, um, and I nature is a broader thing than just the ocean, and coming to read writers like Alan Watts and others, the idea of ourselves as a part of nature um, is really important to me. So when I look out at the world, I don't see separate entities like there's like a tree or a lake. I mean, I see myself reflected in those things, um, and it makes me. I'm very conscious of my subjective reality in the sense that it's easy to feel separated from nature and your connection to nature. I mean, we are the fruit of this planet, and a lot of time, most people are, we have self-awareness, we get this ego going, and we imagine that we are separate entities. We look in the mirror, we see a separate thing, and we can easily fool ourselves into thinking that we are independent, separate entities, separate from nature. And the connection is, we can have a relationship, but it can be sort of a romantic thing or an emotional thing or something that's it's a resource or it's something we can go play in, but it really doesn't, it's not a part of who we are. And I completely disagree with that. My connection to nature is that, like, we talk oftentimes, or you get Elon Musk saying, oh, let's go to Mars, and we're going to be human beings on Mars. Well, no, you're not going to be human beings on Mars. Human beings only exist on the planet. Like, we have evolved from this planet over billions of years, from the smallest organisms. We are so it's so tightly interwoven into our very cells and our DNA, and then from there, just right into our sense of ourselves. If we allow the ego to drop off, if we allow this personality and all the masks that we wear and all these ideas of who we think we are to, like, just step back from that for a second. I mean, right now it's interesting because people are isolated and they have to stay home, and we're kind of going crazy. I mean, the idea now of living on Mars, it's can you imagine being isolated in a bubble on Mars? I mean,
Yeah.
like
Why?
not being able to go and interface with the natural world. I mean, I go outside and I breathe oxygen in my lungs, and it's a mystery to me. It's amazing. It's that this gas that surrounds our planet is perfectly, I've grown to be perfectly attuned to, like, take this gas in, and it that oxygen is moved through my body, keeps me alive, feeds my brain, but that's because we as human beings, we evolved from this planet. I mean, this is the perfect place for us. This is the only place for us. If we went to Mars, we wouldn't be humans anymore. We would evolve into Martians, but that would be a really weird evolution, being in the bubble. So I think people are off their, they don't know what they're talking about when they say we're going to colonize Mars and survive or thrive or live on Mars. I mean, it's not gonna. It's
Yeah, it
not
doesn't
possible.
make sense if you really think about it. And like you said earlier, we're isolated with the COVID situation. And how like do you see it? Like I feel like some people, and I believe this, we kind of see it as like a wake up call to all of us. Like, we are part of this planet. We are all connected. We do have to respect. We can't just take all the time. We need to find the balance. We need to look at this situation that's in our face and find solutions to all the weaknesses that are showing up. The catastrophes that we've created to the planet, to the human race. Like, it's pretty dramatic. And some people are seeing it dramatic in a big way, and some are seeing it, like you said earlier, more as an individualistic way, like me, my life, which I understand. And I'm not in that situation where I'm suffering from my health, like going down the hill or anything. I'm not financially, I'm not worried right now. So I obviously am super privileged and lucky, but I think that people that are okay financially, health-wise, and all that, really do have that opportunity right now to look at how can we make big changes, significant changes, so that we are living in harmony, we are taking care of each other, we are finding systems that are for the humans, not for big companies, or not for
Mhm.
just making money for, a select few and ruining the planet to do it. So like when those are all my ideas and how I feel right now, but like, what is it bringing up in you, the COVID thing?
In me personally, I mean, well, today I don't know, for some reason I'm feeling a little challenged, just with some worry about the economy and such. But when I
Yeah.
start thinking about it, I start digging down into really the most fundamental sort of changes that need to happen. And as I was saying, it goes. We need to think about who we are and this relationship we have to the planet. And in saying that, what I mean is that we need to redefine for ourselves uh, who we are, what gives us pleasure, what is necessary, what is really elemental for us, to survive and thrive, and what does it mean to be happy, um, and to have a meaningful life. And I think, interesting. I think what some people are really responding to this time because, you know being pulled away from their social interactions and from being able to interface with nature and outside, and they're it is forcing this questioning, and it's forcing people to feel uh, the loss of these very simple things, and those are being defined as being more important than
Yeah.
all the stuff that's in your house that we buy and bring home, and the TV and the Netflix. you know the things that are really fundamental to our sense of well-being and meaning in life as human beings, are much more basic. And I think that um, you know I think that if people are give some thought to this, we can have a bit of a change in what we want. And what's the driver? The driver is going to be in terms of is going to be what people say they want. And I'm okay if certain businesses sort of lose lose their position in the world, because I think that, like, so for example, if people stop buying diamonds and people stop buying fancy expensive cars, or like super fast cars because or Hummers or whatever it is, this, or status symbols, or consumption of as much goods, bigger TVs every year, excuse me. If there's a realignment of what we think we need, then the economies are going to shift. The oil industry takes a hit, but other things are going to take their place. There's going to be more value on service jobs. There's certainly more value on healthcare workers right now, and but there's lots of people who provide services and products that are really more basic and should be more highly valued.
Yeah.
Teachers, for example,
Yeah, absolutely.
right?
Yeah.
We're it's about people making good wages for things that actually add value to your life and to society, and that are sustainable too. And so, things like what individuals provide, as opposed to what we can get in terms of quantity. I think more of a focus on quality of life as opposed to quantity. I just think that's kind of naturally happening. I think people have been on that trajectory for a while, but this is really going to force the issue. I hope. There are
Yeah,
still a lot of people who want power,
absolutely.
who want to cling to power, who want to cling to this sense of themselves and their meaning in life based on their wealth and what they own and what they command. Uh, but that's a dead end. That is not, that's a cul-de-sac that is going to lead humanity into the abyss, really, ultimately. we need to change. So, and this is really a wake-up call, and I'm hoping that enough people are reflective and actually make some changes after this is all get said and done, and we sort of return to normal.
Yeah. And what is that normal going to be? Is it going to be a healthier, more sustainable, just fair type of normal? Because the normal right now, or before this, was so misplaced on all the people that hold the power, which are people who don't care about us or the planet. And how did that, we got so far off track. It's like, how do we get to that extreme? It's so extreme right now. And the COVID's showing us like another extreme, like shaking it up. And I feel like it's a perfect time to reassess. And like you said, I'm okay also if there's some balancing shift in balance of powers a little bit, like give those voices to the people out there that actually care about each other, care about humanity, care about what's going to happen in the future, care about the planet, instead of just focusing on how they can make profit or how they're going to remain in those positions where they're above and untouchable. We're seeing that a lot, right? And I guess that's human nature. We've seen it repeated in history over and over. There's always people that want to be in power and control. And I don't know if that's human nature. I hope we can get past that. But
Well,
you think about all that, right?
yeah, I mean, I think that fundamental to all this is basically just fear. We're grappling a bit with that now, and with the idea of mortality and one's mortality. And I don't know, I can't speak for other people, but for me, I'm comfortable with the sense of mortality, which allows me to be less fearful. And without fear, I can, if society is less fearful, and instead of let's say numbing ourselves to feeling and protecting ourselves from the outside world, or protecting ourselves from anything that could happen. So you get a more you get a bigger car, you get a gated community, you surround yourself with wealth and power, and it's all an attempt to protect yourself. And because it's natural. I mean, there's an unknown. We have this ability to think and see ourselves in the mirror, and we get older, and we don't want to die, and we have loved ones and so on. But so it's really, you get down to it, and it's really, you start thinking about, okay, what is your cosmology? What is your view of sort of the cycle of life and death? If you believe in the cycle, if you don't, if it's, if there's a heaven or if there's a hell, or it comes down to, what is your conceptualization of why we're here, and what we want to take from it, and what happens afterwards. And if, for me personally, I just let it go. I mean, I don't have any answers, but I don't really need answers. I enjoy the mystery, but I'm not afraid. I'm not afraid of, what might happen, or of death. I mean, I just trust that, this is something that people do. Well, definitely a part of life. So for me, at this point in my life, and as a writer too, the most important thing is feeling for me. In a hierarchy of values, power is not important. My ego is, I've battled with my ego like everybody, but what I just want to do in my life is have a higher sensitivity, and I want to feel things. So whether it's the cold air on my skin, I may protect myself, but I'm also going to just, take my jacket off and feel it. If I feel some emotion, I'm going to look at it. I'm not going to grasp it, but I'm going to look at it. I'm going to feel it. And then I'm going to let it pass through. I want to feel more love. I want to feel, I want to have a relationship to, it's all about relationship for me. I want it when I go into the forest. What is my relationship to all these things. And it's not just a verbal thing. It's not just in language or concepts. It's also just it's part of feeling. So my understanding of truth, let's say, in terms of relationship, everything is, in my opinion, everything's relationship. We focus too much on particular objects. Like the moon is not the moon outside of the relationship of the earth. The tree is not a tree for me outside of my relationship to it. So, and those relationships require feeling. I want to take that attitude towards my relationships to other people in my life, my family, to you, to my clients as a realtor and what I do, to my memories when I write poetry, to everything. So, and even to the objects in my life, right? So, some people know how this feels. You have an object that your father gave you a watch and he's passed away. What is your relationship with the watch? How do you feel about that thing? So, in terms of value, I think value and meaning is created through relationship and feeling. And it's not, I can have a 60-inch television, but my relationship and my feeling about that TV, it's not creating me real meaning that expands myself as a human being. So in my life, that's where I'm at right now. I'm really about relationship and feeling and trying to, and I think if I project this out to solutions for today, I think it applies to a lot of people. I think if there's a shift in consciousness that life is about relationship, life is about feeling, then, really what we need from life, obviously we need to eat, we need to, we want education, we want to keep growing, and all those things. There's a lot of necessary things that we need to survive and get by, but there's a lot that we really can just put on a lower level of our hierarchy of needs, and replace those with other ways of living and feeling and finding meaning. So so those are some of the things that I deal with philosophically right now, and it makes life, for me, it's really enjoyable. So right now I'm like everybody, I'm home and have time by myself, but it's also a time where I can, fortunately, like most people in Victoria, we can go outside and we can, drive up to the woods and go for a hike or something. But those are great opportunities to really find and feel new things, and to expand actually feel good about where I am in life. There are things I miss, but this is actually a really positive time for me personally. So.
Yeah, and I love all of that because I do believe the same thing. A lot of it is about being aware of our feelings and our relationship with everything. And I would even go further, because I know you, and say that also I feel that a big part of our self-value and self-worth or meaning in life is also feeling that we are helping others when we can, or sharing with others in a way that we feel is beneficial to the other person. And then we feel like, I can help, so I will. And that just feels natural. And that's also part of what makes my life feel meaningful, and I can see that with who you are. Like, you have exchange students living with you, or you've done some humanitarian things when you were younger. And as a real estate agent, you're kind of more as kind of like that guide that's going to kind of figure out what your clients need in a way that's going to help them build a new life if they're just moving here like us, or making sure that they find something that fits who they are and makes them happy. And it's about that exchange and relationship you're going to have with them. So I feel like the more aware we are of our feelings, then we can really question, like, do I enjoy what I'm doing? Do I like my life? Do I feel like I'm using my gifts? I'm using what I'm here for, which takes a while to figure out. Some people, they know right away. Others, it takes a while to figure out, like, what are my gifts? Some are like jack of all trades. Like, you're kind of a jack of all trades. I'm a jack of all trades too. So I can totally relate. Like, I need to do a lot of different things because I have a lot of different ways to be with different people or interact or share my gifts or my talents or my self-expression, all these things. And so it is a hard time for people that, like you said earlier, are kind of in their little bubble of numbing out by just watching Netflix and, maybe even going online and buying a bunch of stuff. Because I feel like a lot of people are probably doing that too, like just ordering stuff, which I think would be really interesting to see what people are buying right now. Because I can't even imagine, like, besides food, I don't feel like I need anything except for like some new piano books. Like, you know what I mean? Like food and I don't know what else. But yeah, those people out there that are kind of the sensitive ones that are saying that are normally able to feel things. Some of them are kind of feeling so much right now. They're feeling like that burden, like they really are already thinking of the aftermath. What's going to happen to all these people that can't afford rent, who don't have jobs anymore, who can't afford healthcare? Like in the US, for example, there's people out there that are those kind of big people out there feeling like, wow, this is going to be so bad, and then there's others that I don't know what they're thinking. Maybe they don't want to feel at all. They're kind of shut down, and then there's people that are just trying to like live day by day, like, okay, what can I do today? How can I live in the moment today and make the most of it? And just kind of stay centered, and we're all different. So we're all obviously going to live this differently. And the best, I think, I spoke to somebody else and I said, well, what do you think? Do you have any advice for people that are kind of retreating, people that are hiding right now and don't want to get out there or think or feel? And she said, I think each person needs to figure out what they need right now. And if there are people out there feeling so terrified and all they want to do is curl up with a book and be by themselves, if they need that, then that's great. Like, let them do it, And I was thinking that was a really open-minded, non-judgmental thing. Because sometimes I tend to think like people should really face their feelings, like don't hide too long. You know what I mean? Like, I understand people do need to go into that hibernation mode and assess how they're feeling. And I guess everyone has their own pace at it, so I just think it's just an interesting time where everyone's adapting or reacting or not reacting differently. And I personally feel so grateful to be in Victoria. I can't imagine being anywhere else right now. Because I feel like you said earlier, like, it's the simple things we realize now. It's the simple things that are important to us. And part of that is like feeling like you still have some kind of freedom. And I feel that I feel free here. I don't have anyone saying you can only go out for 1 hour. I'm not in an apartment where I can only go on my balcony. Like you said, I can go and take a long walk or a long bike ride. And it's spring and it's beautiful and you can really get out there. And we still are able to, talk to people like how we're doing now and just kind of set up our own schedules. And I still feel there's some sense of freedom. So I feel lucky with that. And yeah, so I just think it's an interesting time to go, like you said, to kind of be with yourself, feel what's going on, and have that courage to feel,
Well, so you said some interesting things. Everybody is on their own trajectory in terms of sort of their own awakening and development of their own sort of conscious interaction and understanding of themselves within their environment and with other people, and that's okay. I take the approach that we're a work in progress. Everybody is a work in progress, and if you expect people to be perfect, you might as well just call it a day, because people, every person this is my species, right? And you have to embrace them all in that sense, and you have to accept. I mean, I may have some ideas that I think are advanced, compared to the next person, or I'm further along in my, awareness and development, maybe about this or that. But the truth is that we're all at certain stages learning various different things, and we're all work in progress. We're all failing and succeeding at different things at different times.
Yeah.
And so I in terms of the call, you were talking about um, people's callings and what they feel like they need to do. I mean,
Yeah.
the next, that if to me, stepping out of yourself and becoming of service, and engaging with other people in a way that is about your own giving, and that becomes the focus of your life, giving to others and being of service, like a lot of healthcare workers do
Yeah.
now.
Yeah.
But so many other people do as well in small ways. That is so undervalued
Yeah.
in
Oh my
in the
God. We could talk
world.
about that for hours. It's crazy. I'm going to put
Yeah.
this on pause for 1 second and we'll come back in just a second.
Okay. I was talking about people who are of service, and I wanted to say that you know personally, for me, being grounded, being aware, trying to be sensitive, trying to get more feeling from life, when I look at a painting, when I breathe the air, when I look at my son, whatever it is, go to the forest, all that, enhanced experience of life, and getting more meaning for myself. That's all great. But the next step then, and a lot of people, that's going to be a huge advance for them personally, getting out of their ego and being able to like see that life is actually lived, and meaning is lived and generated outside themselves, as opposed to, in the relationship. And that's all good. But really the next step then is to and not a lot of people can do this, but to be of service in some way, to then to turn the what you've gained and what comes in, and then turn it back out, and in a way of giving and being of service. And that's I think that's really missing, and that's not valued as much, what people give of themselves. So we can talk about music teachers, or teachers generally, or um, um, people who healthcare workers, home care workers, people who really are putting out, a lot of those people are the lowest paid people.
I know.
but
It's
but if we
terrible.
value the interaction, if we value not material things but what people give, if people are paid at a higher wage, um, if I do something that's of service and I'm paid a higher wage, I have more money to spend. And if I value people or services that I think give my life meaning, and the interaction that I have with those people, um, I should see them as being valuable too. I mean, my house cleaner, or my child minder, right? Um, those people, why shouldn't they be paid at a high wage, as opposed to, like, we're willing to spend a lot of money on luxury things that, really we spend money on luxury things as a way to, um, I believe it's a way to escape our fears of not, it's a way of protecting ourselves and having more things, and a way of actually not feeling and avoiding the fact that, the material ownership is not going to sustain us. And but when we live in our egos, that is buying things and spending a lot on a Gucci bag or whatever, that is a response to fear. We buy those things because we're basically fearful of um of having a lack of meaning and not knowing where to turn for it. And
Yeah.
so it's a whole value system that needs to change. And I think it goes right down. It starts with the idea of yourself and your relationship to your life, to where we come from in nature, to death. And if we can let go of the fear, whatever your answer is around those things, if your answers for the mysteries of life come from fear, like, you need to just relax and let go of that fear and not hold on to those answers that are manufactured. Because once you let go of the fear, then you can start to respond in new ways and value new things, and change is possible. And the planet can actually, and society can actually start, having frankly, a sustainable future going forward, where and the economy will change, and yes, we're not going to buy. People wouldn't be so eager to have a big diamond ring when they get married, as opposed to, let's say, something more meaningful. As I said, like, if you invest meaning in a smaller thing. My wedding ring was a $3 silver band that I bought on the beach in Mexico for little bands for my wife, and we used those as it was a girlfriend ring, but then it became our wedding rings too, and they cost $3 each, right? But they had a lot of meaning for us. And then after 20 years, we got new handmade native bands in Hawaii when we were there. So on a family trip with our kids, and we sort of had I proposed on the beach, but the point is that value and meaning are tied with experience, and it's tied with relationship, and those things are valuable. I mean, if you have a childminder, the relationship and what she gives to your children, or a teacher, or the person who cuts your hair, I mean, if you value human beings and the relationships, then above material things that are non-essential, there's a lot of possibility. Society has not gone there completely yet.
No.
That is the way forward, in my opinion. And right now, I think it's an interesting time, because we're sort of forced to sit back and look at all the stuff around us in our house and realize, geez, I'm really missing, going to the hairdresser and just feeling that person next to me with their hands in my hair. And I used to talk with them, and what a pleasure that was, like such a joy. And I did, I usually only tip them $2, but maybe I'm going to give them a $5 tip or a $10. Maybe they should actually charge me like $35 instead of $25, or
Yeah, I agree. And I think there's also the role that society takes advantage of our fears. It creates all those marketing things around us. Like you mentioned the Gucci bag, and society's created this image, like, if you have a Gucci bag, that means you're successful, And so then people start wanting that image to portray what society says is successful, their image. And we do that same with services. There's certain services we think are worth a lot, and some we don't. Like lawyers make a ton, and of course they went through school and they have all this education and things like that. But I also see, like you said, there's hairdressers, and there's people out there that are giving house, taking care of your kids, or taking care of maybe an elderly parent, or doing these really intimate, intense, emotional things where they're just giving so much. And where's the value in that? There's so much value in it, but society has this list of what a teacher should be paid, of what this person should be paid, and we just agree with it, and we go with it. And when you're in service industries, because I was as a yoga teacher, which I'm not anymore, it's really plays on your self-worth sometimes, because you're faced a lot with people basically saying, you're not worth this. You're asking and you're not worth it. And then you see them go spend money on something they think, and that's their right. They decide what they think is worthy of their money, their energy, their exchange. It's kind of like that exchange, because money is our way of having is our way of having an energetic exchange nowadays. We don't really barter. Maybe some communities can do those type of things, trade and things, but in general, we give something, and in return, we have another energy exchange, and that just happens to be money nowadays. So when some people kind of say, like, you're worth less, that's hard to deal with, you know, like it's hard to have a lot of self-worth when you're out there giving so much and society believes you are worth less, right? Like
Hmm.
that's so hard. And then I think, like you mentioned earlier, once you're out there, you kind of have like not an obligation, but if you're kind of on that, you're aware of who you are and what your gifts are and things, and you can really be out there giving some kind of service. It can be service like um, the typical things we've mentioned, health or healthcare or teaching or those things, but it can also be just somebody who is a great salesman, you know what I mean? Like that really cares about the people, and you feel like when you're with them that they really do take your needs into consideration, and you have
Hmm.
this great experience with them because you leave feeling like I paid for this service or this object, but I really got all the information I needed. I feel like it was a good deal. This person spent so much time with me and cared about really what we wanted and didn't want, all those things. Like I find people can be of service in any profession that they have,
Hmm.
um,
Hmm.
in
Yeah.
a way that's helpful for people. It doesn't
Right.
even like it can be a dishwasher or like somebody like a janitor. I mean, I don't even care. Like I just feel like some people out there just have that way of dealing with people where they take pride in what they do. They kind of exude that they have self-worth even if they're not being paid a lot, which sucks because I mean I've met so many people that I find amazing. And that's also, I just want to mention, that's also why I want to do this show. Is I don't want to highlight famous people. I don't care about the famous people out there, and maybe some of those famous people are doing great things, or maybe they are amazing, but they do have that fame and they do have different platforms to use it, you know. And I just find that it's just more down to earth and realistic to talk to people that are down to earth and sharing their stories with us, and they're just as interesting as somebody famous. They're just as important and just as valuable and just as,
Hmm.
you know, amazing, you know.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Hmm. Well, that's true, and you have these. I really enjoy on Instagram the guy who runs his posts called Humans of New York. I don't know if you've
Okay.
seen that,
No.
but you have to look at that because basically just he started in New York, but he also travels the world, and he takes a picture of somebody, and then he gets their story, and it's usually a paragraph or two, or sometimes he'll run sequential posts, and the stories are amazing. Obviously, he doesn't post all the stories; he posts the interesting ones. But these are average, everyday people, and the stories are just sometimes they break your heart, and sometimes
Yeah.
they're feel-good stories. But you realize that human beings, um, human beings are what make us who we are. I mean, my name would not be Jerome Peacock if I didn't have people around me, because what do I need a name for? I would know who I am without other people. I wouldn't have language. I wouldn't have the ability to conceptualize my world without having interacted with other people. And your show and this idea of recognizing that we thrive and we find meaning and value and we move forward uh, because of our relationships with other people. I mean, that's so fundamental, and those need to be more highly valued. And you know, in this time when economics is really under pressure, it's like, what's the way forward? Like, how do you reconfigure a society that we have real needs in terms of eating and health and all education, all the things, but how do you reconfigure it so that um, living on a finite planet where it's unsustainable to just completely, GDP can't go up forever, and resources, you can't just extract resources forever, you have to shift. So how do you do that? I mean, fundamentally, I think it comes down to having a shift in what you value. There's supply and demand, but so the supply is going to run out. We have to change what we demand, what we value, what we find get meaning in. And in the the only thing we have is each other. Value each other more. Value service, pay for service, pay each other, like reward each other for the services that we give to each other, and value that more highly. We all make money. It would require that everybody becomes more of service, not just takers, right?
Yeah.
I'm not just a taker anymore. I don't go out and, during a pandemic and buy all of the hand sanitizer and then resell it at 1,000% markup on Amazon anymore. The future has to be about valuing people who are of service, and valuing people generally more. And that is a good economic model, in my opinion. I mean,
Yeah.
And it really, that's if talking about incentivizing people to be better people, to grow and to be of more worth to society. I mean, all you have to do is start valuing those people more.
Absolutely. 1 second. Great. Before we wrap up our interview, I wanted to see if you wanted to share one of your poems with us.
Oh, yeah, thanks. So we've been talking about nature, about feeling, about the centrality of relationship to things, and so this poem it's discussed. Well, I'll read it to you. It's called "In Our Nature," and it talks about something of a bit about evolution and where we come from, and what our unfortunately a lot of what our response is oftentimes to that, and how we struggle with it. It's one of the conflicts that we have is that we live on a finite planet, and living on a finite planet means it's finite, and we intrinsically, I mean, in a finite system, you have to compete with your fellow critters for the resources to get by, and that's sort of the setup. So the evolution of consciousness then is the antidote. It's the way forward. You get to a point where you are able to see beyond this conflict and manage it, as opposed to living in fear. And instead of being a selfish competitor, you evolve into some society that is able to work together sustainably and realize that this is the way it has to go. So anyway, the poem is called "In Our Nature." This finite sphere, it's in our DNA. You travel it from start back to start until the last turn. There's no escape, just your needs. And then there's all the rest of us making things difficult. That pressure we know in ourselves from millennia of human evolution. And for success, we get to recognize our reflection in the car mirror. A little insight, but it's just not enough, no. Sure, we've tried various social orders, but the sphere prevails, spinning like a gyroscope in the neocortex. You want so badly to cry or run them all off the road, but instead drive at full speed, nothing in your way, death left in the dust. So the poem really, it requires a few readings because it's kind of dense, but the idea is that we evolved from change and from pressure, right? The environment's put pressure on us, we've evolved. What's the pressure that's going to force us to evolve consciously, spiritually? It's going to be a pressure from each other, from the planet putting so much pressure on us that the light bulb goes on and say, oh, we have to change. And the challenge is not getting pissed off and wanting to just run people off the road because they're in your way. What we want to do is we just want to drive fast and feel that freedom, but we can't, it's a sphere. We end up going in a circle. So that's the challenge. I think it's looking for a new way forward.
Yeah.
That is an evolution of our spirit and our soul that has a different, that has a greater awareness, and puts more value on these relationships, and that is not reliant on that can work in a finite environment, which is where we're at. Every planet in the universe is a finite planet. This is where we're at. We've evolved from it, and we're in conflict because of it, and we have to find a way forward, and that requires this pandemic is the pressure.
Yeah, absolutely.
It is like it is an evolutionary pressure that we're experiencing right now, and the pressure we're feeling is uncomfortable, but it's forcing us to rethink. And this is what this poem's actually about, in a way. It's about the evolutionary pressure of we're being slapped down here by the planet, and the way forward is to, as what we're doing right now, actually on Zoom, is connecting and discussing and finding meaning together, and discussing ways forward. So
yeah, I love that. And I love that you mentioned about how we want our freedom, and so we want to go full force and just kind of like, oh, this is too hard, too complicated, I'm going to escape it, I'm just going to move forward without thinking. But that's not going to help anymore. It's too late, right? Like we have to find a new solution, find new ways, and even if deep down we want to just kind of ignore it all.
Yeah, I mean, get in the fast. We want to get in the car and drive fast and have nothing in our way. But I mean, ultimately, we just come back full circle around the other side of the planet. So there's no escape, right?
Yeah, that's a good image. Like you can go fast and just you can go really fast, but you're gonna just keep going around. Like. Yeah.
Anyway,
that was great.
With this kind of stuff in my poetry too. Thanks very much.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing the poem, but also thank you for sharing your time and your views, your experiences with us during our, this is our first interview together. And I think that was really fun to do. And hopefully everyone will enjoy it as much as we did.
Well, I'm honored to be asked by you for my thoughts and things. This is probably the first and the longest interview I've ever done. So aside from drinking wine around the couch and having questions posed to me, this has been fun. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Great. So we will put this up, and I'm hoping a lot of people will enjoy it, watch it, or listen to it. And who knows, maybe we'll bring you back on and talk about something else. You never know.
Thanks, Amy.
All right. Thank you so much.
Okay.